everyone, I am Bec from the Sharp Mind and Direct Group, and I'm talking today at the ILP Learning Capability Showcase about developing learning materials. So just a little bit of an introduction on who I am. As I said, I run my own business, The Sharp Mind. It's both a learning, content creation, facilitation business, as well as working in the psychotherapy space as well. I also work at Direct Group in Sydney's Northern Beaches, looking after learning and organisational development. And I've been in the learning space for around 15 years now. So when I'm talking to you today about learning, developing learning materials, I know that a lot of people who will be watching have been doing this for a long time. It's not necessarily about reinventing the wheel. For me today, it's about providing you with a toolkit of some really great tools that some you might know, some might be new, and that some you can add to your own collection of great tools as well. In the chat box as well, I'd love to hear about some of your own great tools. Please do share those sorts of things that work really well for you as well. What we're doing is we're helping each other build our toolkits. And when I'm talking about learning materials, I'm really talking about three things. So the first one is about how they're designed. The second is what sorts of things are incorporated into our learning. And the third is how are they communicated. So we're going to look at that today, looking at from pre-learning, developing content, and really starting from scratch. We're going to be talking about what happens in the learning environment as well, both online and in face-to-face learning, and how they're communicated post-training experience as well. So whether you are a believer in learning styles or not, and I know there's a lot going on recently about whether or not learning styles is an actual thing, the fact is that when we are developing learning content and we're putting together our learning materials, what we're really looking at doing is developing material with the learner at heart. So what that means is that, as we all know, people often don't remember what we say. We remember how we experienced it. So for us as learning professionals, it's about creating an experience so that when people remember that experience, they then remember, and that's what it was that I needed to do with that. So you might be talking about something like time management, for example. And when I talk about time management, one of the things we talk about is having a strategy. So I'll get my learners to do something like put together a jigsaw puzzle. And so people don't remember the fact that we're talking about having a strategy necessarily, but they remember the jigsaw puzzle, what was the point of the jigsaw puzzle, and then, yes, it's about having strategy. How do we have strategy when it comes to great time management and focus? So that's really important, that everything we do has a purpose and everything we do becomes an experience so that people are more likely to remember more of what we talk about. So let's start off then with some really great pre-learning experience tools. And I can't start anywhere other than with a great empathy map. So I always like to begin with the end in mind. What is the purpose of what we're doing? And then what do I want my audience to think, feel, do, say, all the rest? Starting with an empathy map and working backwards ensures that whatever we do develop, we're talking about and we're working on creating that overall experience rather than just creating some learning content because we need to tell our learners about a new policy, for example. The second thing I consider is what are the sorts of activities that I can put into my learning. So I really like to gamify it. adults learn the same way as children. And as I said, we don't remember the actual content until we remember the experience. So nothing's off limits. Make it as crazy and as fun as you can, but see how you can do it in a way that brings back those key messages as well. I recently ran some leadership programs, and after 6 months on the leadership program, we ran the big pub quiz. And the pub quiz was getting people into teams and getting them to really just answer pub quiz style lots of different questions around their key learnings over the last 6 months. It really helps us bring back that key learning. It really helps to just reinvigorate that learning experience. It's fun, it's competitive, it's exciting, but also the purpose is there. It helps to just really go over what were those key messages, what were the key learnings, what do we want our people to take away, and how are they using it? And then as a facilitator, I'm able to really understand whether or not they're applying that learning the way they should be. So the big pub quiz was fun. We had lots of trophies for our winners, and it was a really great experience. People love competition, and so adding that competitive element was really great in getting people to really focus their attention back on that learning as well. So gamify it. I like to include loads of different games in my learning, because just like kids, we all like to have fun, and we all like to do things that are enjoyable. So as adults, we'll still really enjoy that experience as well. Lots of different games, and I'll leave an actual toolkit, including some of the games that I love to use as well. I don't often use PowerPoints. Quite often I use a flip chart, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later on. But when I do use PowerPoints, I always like to think about the imagery that I use, and just being aware of the white space as well. Just because PowerPoint allows you to use all sorts of different funky tools doesn't mean we actually have to use them. So there was a time previously where, when putting together PowerPoints, it was we take away everything on the PowerPoint, and we just have this massive picture on the screen and maybe 1 or 2 words, because we were all worried about death by PowerPoint, right? Nowadays, we go back to what is that learner experience, what do they like, and what is visually appealing. And so something that's visually appealing is being aware of white space, utilizing it, making our presentations sexy, don't overuse words, but also being aware of that white space. So being able to use some imagery, it doesn't need to take up everything, and being aware of, particularly in longer sessions, what does impact that learner experience. So too much red, too much yellow can actually hurt our eyes as well. So getting that balance right as well. And of course, on that, we don't need to use every different flick and open and exciting piece, as I said, just because it's there as well. Is when I am creating my PowerPoint presentations, I love Canva. So Canva is really beautiful for being able to create our own branded tools or our own branded presentations by utilizing one of their millions of templates, and then putting our own colors in, our own branding in as well. And then it just allows us to create a brand with personality as well. So I never think that we should have every single PowerPoint or every single slide exactly the same. And I often don't use slides, but when I'm working with people over Zoom, for example, I will tend to use slides more so than in person. when we are doing that, I like my slides to have personality. So they will be branded, but they won't all be the same. And Canva is a really great way of being able to see beautifully designed PowerPoint presentations or presentations with lots of different personality, different slides, same brand with different slides as well. So I've used that quite a lot, and I really love Canva as well. I like to use Pixabay and Unsplash to get my imagery, because obviously they're free stock images. We need to be aware of where we get our images from. It's still illegal just to take, for the most part, images straight off Google. So using the right images, I like to go to places like Pixabay and Unsplash, but there are loads of different places. 500px is another example where you can get free stock images, and you can pretty much get anything you want. Whether or not we agree with learning styles, I think it's really important to engage the senses in the learning experience. So quite often I will use something like scent. And I have here a diffuser. I often put in my diffuser, and this one, I just got that from Eco Modern for about $20. I think they're on sale now. And I'll often use something like peppermint if I'm looking to help create more of an energetic state, or I might use different florals like lavender as well if I'm trying to just put people into a more reflective, calming state. So it depends on what we're doing in the room. Particularly if it's after lunch, I'll definitely use something like peppermint, eucalyptus, sort of a mix of those sorts of things. If we are after lunch, the witching hour, if you like, and I want to create a little bit more energy in the room. So engaging the senses is a really important one for me. Another way I engage the senses, I'm sure as learning professionals we all have these Mr. Sketch, but bright colours, Mr. Sketch is obviously really great for engaging our scent as well. Bright colours are so important again for creating that energy, high energy in our room as well. So considering how we can utilise colour. The other thing I like to do with engaging senses is, apart from having toys or whatever on the table, is writing flip charts as I'm going through my presentation. So rather than having everything already written up or already on a PowerPoint, I will actively write my flip chart as someone's talking. Engages that sort of kinesthetic and the visual senses as well. Again, whether or not you like or believe in learning styles, these are really important for that overall experience as well. So people are part of that learning journey. Now for online learning, I love to use a light ring as well. As you can see, being a fairly new mum, I have some dark circles around my eyes, so a light ring really helps to just help with good light, being aware of my surroundings, so setting myself up in a place that's really good. And I also use lots of really great online tools as well. So one of the tools that I'm using now is one called Mentimeter. Sorry, I had to go back on it and see if I could get it up, but I couldn't. So Mentimeter just helps us to create some really interactive Zoom meetings, or however we're doing meetings, lots of different interactives on there. So that's called Mentimeter. There are paid for versions and free versions of that as well. So another online tool that I really love is Session Labs. And Session Labs is another website with both free and paid for content that allows you to develop and upload session plans, and also to collaborate with other co-facilitators as well. So if you're working with someone who might not be in the same state as you, or unable to work side by side with you, particularly as we're going through COVID and we can't all get together, then this is a really great way to work together on some session planning as well. So another great tool that is fantastic for learning is our trusty phone, and quite often we forget just what value this adds to our learning. So there's some really great apps that I use for content creation. For example, I use an app called Workpack, which is WHACK, and this is a creativity app. So it helps give you or prompt different ideas of how to create different learning experiences. So for example, today's card of the day, let's have a look, is about different words can lead to different thinking. So if we change the words we use to describe a situation and reframe it. So this might be a really good example of an activity that we use when it comes to how we're communicating with people and being aware of our language. So I really like this as just a bit of a prompt in different ways I can develop activities around the content that I have as well. As I said, it's called Workpack. Another app that I really like is the Scan app, and it basically just scans your PowerPoint, your flip charts, or for me, my flip charts, into PDFs, and then I can save them on my phone. This one's a solutions focus I did. I can upload them into different I can send them via email or upload them onto different cloud sources, or I can group them into different learning sessions as well. So that's called, I think I said Scan. It's called Scan B, B-E-E that is, and I really like that as well. The other thing that I really love and I use all the time is my voice memos, and I think you can see just how often I use voice memos. This is a fabulous tool for just recording as I'm developing my learning materials, developing my learning content. It's just a really fantastic tool for on-the-go thoughts about my learning content as well, and how I put that together. So I'm constantly using my voice memos, and sometimes I'll then upload them onto the cloud and save them all, or I'll just come back to them as I'm really looking to dump and develop my learning content as well. So when it comes to our learner workbooks, something that I think is a really cool tool is a thing called Ingram Sparks. And Ingram Sparks is a self-publishing tool. So if anyone here has self-published their own books before, you may have used Ingram Sparks. But it's also not just for workbooks or books that we might sell. It's also a great tool for books that we might use as workbooks as well. So if we're working with a client and we're really wanting to showcase our brand, rather than just going down to Officeworks and printing and binding something that looks like we've done it ourselves, we can easily and effortlessly create our own workbooks using Ingram Sparks at almost the same price as if we were going to somewhere like Officeworks to do it. So here's an example. I actually brought the wrong book today, would you believe? So this isn't my one, which is why it's covered, but you get the idea. This one is a leadership toolkit, and it's put together, as you can see, like a book that I'd have on my bookshelf. And when you put together your workbooks and your learning materials this beautifully, that's exactly what's going to happen. People are going to have them out on their bookshelves as go-to resources, rather than tucked away at the bottom of their their folders list, or in amongst everything else, as we often find, or worse yet, straight in the bin, as we sometimes find with learning materials as well. So Ingram Sparks is, I think, a really cool way to publish our workbooks. As I said, it is for self-publishing books in general, paid for books, but you can publish workbooks like those as well, easily, effortlessly, and at a really good cost as well. I also like to provide my learners with journals. So this is just a plain journal for note taking, but it has my branding on the front as well. I just used a local business to do this, and again, it's all about things that products that are really beautiful and really showcase your brand as well. So I mentioned games earlier. For online learning, we can still do things like games, utilising breakout rooms, utilising all of the sorts of capability of things like Zoom. What I would say again is very much like if we are using our PowerPoint, for example, just because it has the capability doesn't mean we have to use it. So make sure that whatever we do use is relevant to what we're trying to do. But all sorts of games are really great on Zoom. So for example, if we're coming back after a busy or a really long session and we just need a bit of high energy, I might do a trivia, and I will scatter general knowledge trivia questions with trivia questions from our learnings of the day as well. Or I might do I often use Spotify on my phone and do a guess the song by the intro, for example, if I just want something a little bit more high energy just to start off my sessions as well. Other things that are really good are charades. So if we're trying to explain, or if we're getting people to debrief at the end of our sessions, debrief different tools, you can debrief the tools using charades as well and give everyone a different tool. So games are really useful as well when it comes to learning, even in the online space. There are so many, and again, I'll leave a list of those as well that you can download, printable download with all sorts of different games that I use both in face-to-face learning and also when it comes to online learning as well. Okay, so then we have our post-learning tools. And one of the things that I really love to do is send out learning through something like an EDM, like MailChimp, for example. So with MailChimp, it allows you to create beautifully designed emails, and you can upload your learning materials to those emails, and then the learner can just click on a button in order to download them again. And of course, you can see who's downloaded what and how much, you can resend it if they need to be resent as well. But it's a really great way of just ensuring that you're keeping on brand, particularly if you are the sort of person that is working with lots of different clients. You're able to also potentially develop your database as well and share drip feed learning content afterwards as well. So I like to put everyone in an EDM list, and then I'll drip feed content one little bit every week until we've really developed new habits around whatever that learning was. So for example, I've recently done some learning on storytelling, and one week I've sent a video to watch. The next week I've sent some information around the different types of stories. Another week I've sent some information around structure of stories. Another week it's about metaphors as well. So I really love this as a way to get my information out, but it's also a way that looks really beautiful as well. So for me, it's all about having a brand, keeping to my brand, but also allowing my brand to have some character, some energy, some fun as well. And I really like MailChimp as a way to do that. Again, this is a free tool. It's great in order to be able to just really get your lists developed as well, and to be able to provide some really beautiful learning. So thanks so much for joining today. I hope you found this toolkit useful, and I hope you found at least one or two tools that you haven't come across or haven't tried using yet. So developing learning materials for me is all about just trying new things, daring to be a little bit different, remembering our own personal brand, and also being a little bit creative with it as well. So I hope you've got some really great tools from this session, and again, I'd love you to share some of your own fabulous tools as well. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon.